Hello, everyone. I'm Barbara Ham Lee. Up next on Another View, it's a matter of public safety, employment, housing, health, both public and behavioral, education, family relationships, voting or not, and it affects each and every one of us. Every day, more than 1,800 prisoners are released from state or federal custody back into our states, cities, and neighborhoods. And they have to learn to re-enter society and make a positive difference. And we have to help them. All of us. We'll talk about it next on Another View right after this news from NPR.
Discussing today's topics from an African American perspective, this is Another View.
And good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Another View. I'm Barbara Ham Lee. In doing my research for today's program, the one thing that jumped out at me and gave me pause is the vicious cycle that is our criminal justice system. Here's the profile of who we're talking about. Young, African American, male, little or no high school education, unemployed, poor. He gets in trouble. He goes to jail or prison. He gets out. But he's still young, African American, male, possibly has his GED, unemployed, poor. He goes back into the same environment, cannot get a leg up, and before you know it, he's back inside again. So how do we break the cycle? What can we as a society do to improve the chances of the returning citizen? Our guest has some answers. In the studio is Reverend Hasan Zarif, a reentry specialist with Goodwill Industries in Richmond and a prison chaplain. Welcome, Hasan.
Glad to be here.
Thank you so much for being with us. Robert Williams, who's an employment specialist with Second Chances here in Norfolk. Hi, Robert.
Hi, how you doing, Barbara?
I'm doing great. Thank you for joining us today. And joining us by phone is James Windom, Executive Director of the Capital Area Reentry Coalition in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Hi, James.
Good morning. It's morning here.
Yes, it's afternoon here.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Thank you so much for joining me. And Paul Joyner, who has been helped by a reentry program in Alabama. How you doing, Paul?
I'm doing all right.
Good. Thank you so much for joining us, too. Prior to our going on the air, we were having a discussion, Hasan, about the fact that you say you do your crime, yes, you do the time, you've paid your debt to society, and you should be able to get back into society. But you paused me. You told me, wait a minute. I take a little bit of issue with that.
Yeah, there's another piece to that. When individuals are incarcerated, especially African-American males and other males, when they're incarcerated, they have families, they have children. While they're incarcerated, although they're incarcerated for the offense that they committed, mm-hmm, someone is sending their children to school, taking care of their medical expenses, doing things to help them to get where they need to be. So although when a person comes out of prison, they will say, I've done my time, I've paid my debt to society, he has to go back and kind of give something back to those taxpayers. In order to do that, you have to begin to think about, how can I give back to my community? Mm-hmm. What can I do to let my community know that I've appreciated what they have done for me while I was incarcerated? And if you can do that, mm-hmm, you will find that the doors of opportunities for employment and other things begin to open wide.
So your thing is it's a two-way street.
It's a two-way street.
You just can't take. You also have to give.
That's right.
Give. Paul, I want to talk to you for just a moment because you were one of these young African-American males that we were talking about. You got in trouble with the law. Can you tell us what happened to you?
Oh, okay.
Turn your radio down, if you will, so that you or your computer.
You hear me now?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I moved down here from Virginia with my mama, and I moved down here to my grandma's house, and I started selling drugs. And I made a little money, caught a trafficking case. I went in and did like 46 months, and I got out. While I was incarcerated, I got my GED, though, and I did a little, try to get in Shelton State College. I was on a positive note. When I get out of prison, I'm back in the same neighborhood, trying to find employment. I'm a convicted felon, and it gets frustrating. Every door you go to is, "Oh, you got a felony?" "Yeah, I got a felony." We'll see you later. It gets frustrating.
So you don't even get a chance to present your case before you're shut down once they find out that you've been convicted of a felony.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So you out here, you broke, you ain't got no money. Ain't nobody really got nothing for you. Your family can help, but they got their own thing going on. So you really in a tough spot. So you really back doing the same thing before you know it. You get it.
Let me ask you a question, Paul, because I'm curious. The day that you walked out of prison, and you were there for 46 months, right? Is that what you said?
Ma'am.
Okay. The day that you walked out of prison, what did you have in your pocket? I mean, did they give you money to get home? Did you tell us for those who
because Alabama, well, Alabama, I don't know how they do it in Virginia or Louisiana, but Alabama prison is the second biggest revenue they have in the state. They have agriculture and prison, so they're really not trying to help you when you come back in society. They gave me $10, and I think they gave a felony card to me. And you get the $10 on a little debit card and the bus ticket. I had got a bus ticket. That was it. You back free.
So you got a bus ticket, a felon, and a card, a debit card with $10. Yes,
ma'am. That's what I got. And, I'm riding the bus right back to the same strip I caught the case on. I get off, walk down to my neighborhood, hug my grandma, and I'm back. I'm back in my same realm that I was in before I left.
And how did your family receive you?
My mom was real supportive. My mom, my uncle, everybody was real supportive. My grandma was real supportive, but she had all the time. So she was really on a decline. She was really on a decline. And everybody, my mom always been supportive with me. She always been supportive, but she didn't stuck her neck out there so many times with me. As I didn't burn her so many times. There's only so much she'll do. She's willing to do what a mom do, but you keep, being hard-headed doing the same thing. There's only so much she can do, So, that was boat I was in. That was boat I was in. And got out. It was frustrating. It was real frustrating. To wake up every morning without nothing. You wake up, you broke, you ain't got nothing. You seeking employment, but ain't nobody calling you back. So I was wondering how long do you supposed to just sit down and just accept what life gives you. Now my people say you free and you living, but you're a man and you got pride and you want things. You want to eat. You want to buy yourself something. You want to be able to take care of yourself. And I wasn't able to do that. And it gets frustrating. It's frustrating every day. It's pain because I know the system is designed for me to go back. The way it is down here is designed for you to go back. It's not designed for you to succeed or say, yeah, I'm a convicted felon and yeah, I got a story to tell. I can't. It ain't designed for that. It's designed for you to come back. The doors to keep swinging. I'm on parole now.
All right, hang on 1 second, Paul, because I want to ask James, when you hear Paul say that, it's not designed for me to stay out, it's designed for me to go back. What's your response?
Well, first of all, what Paul is describing is the plight of many of the men and women that we deal with, and while the system in itself may not be inclined, for the most part, to provide those services that an individual needs to be returned to their society, to the community, there are a lot of programs, and I want to say this. Our Secretary of Corrections, Jimmy LeBlanc, is a staunch proponent for reentry. In fact, he has fought battles for many of our guys and girls who are coming out of incarceration to have those programs available to them. And so in some respects, what Paul is saying is not accurate all the way around. Now, unfortunately, many of our clients, even in Louisiana, are housed within the public jail. Now, almost 53% of everyone who's incarcerated in Louisiana is housed in your local jails. And unfortunately, as Paul was describing, there are no programs available. They're sitting there languishing for 6 months, or maybe even 3 years, without any services. So, and unfortunately, they get out and there's nothing that they have available to them. But what I want to say also, probably 25 years ago, this was the norm. unfortunately, for all of our men and women who are incarcerated, we have a tremendous array of people out there, both legislatively, individuals, companies that are working tirelessly to rectify a lot of the issues that our men and women are facing when they get out. We have a sentencing commission that is right now looking at some of the legislative barriers that have been imposed upon our men and women when they return to our communities that we can eliminate. Mm-hmm. Also, we have a huge array of people right now working to ban the box. That little box on that application that says, have you ever been convicted or arrested? We're hoping to see that eliminated real soon. In fact, it's a national movement. So when that individual fills out that application, no longer will that employer see that box checked and arbitrarily throw it into wastebasket number 13. What he will now do is look at, based on the merit of the talent of that individual, he will call that person in. Now, he still has an opportunity to do a background check, mm-hmm. but he will be basing that on the merit of that individual, not necessarily what he did 10, 15 years ago.
So it sounds like then it's a state-by-state attitude, if you will, towards the ex-offender and what happens to him. Robert, here in Virginia, I know you're very involved with the Ban the Box movement also.
Yes, we are, and we've had a great initiative with Ban the Box where Richmond was probably the first and foremost jurisdiction to move forward with it, and it's moved down to through Newport News, Portsmouth, and Norfolk was the most recent jurisdiction to implement Ban the Box. Virginia Beach is working on something, and I expect that they will soon following the footsteps.
So is this legislation, or is this just people voluntarily changing their employment applications to not ask?
Well, the way it's been done in the city is it's changed through the city manager. It goes through the city manager.
So these are for city jobs.
Right. But one of the things that we're working on is not only having your government agencies ban the box, but also, for example, people who contract with the city. You know, we have several contractors with the city of Norfolk, and, you know, we're trying to get them to implement Ban the Box as well. Mm-hmm. Most recently, yesterday, day before yesterday, one of the largest retailers implemented Ban the Box. That was Target. Target nationwide, they've instituted a policy of, mm-hmm. you know, removing that question from the application, because it does give a certain what I call employment discrimination, mm-hmm. because if people aren't judged by their KSAs, which are knowledge, skills, and abilities, that's what, you know, human resource lingo, what have you, and also their soft skills, which is what type of attitude, the way you present, those type of things. If they don't get an opportunity to present themselves on that level, then they really can't compete. And I want to also add that it's never a good time to be incarcerated. But right now, where we are in history and society, it's a good time to be released, because I've never seen as many programs, as many opportunities that they present themselves now for reentry and that type of, when you come back into society, there are a lot of opportunities. There's a lot of community development corporations such as Goodwill, and I work for the Garden of Hope, and, you know, we're providing a lot for people, because we see that it's everybody's problem. It's not just a problem that presents itself, and I understand what the young man was talking about, where that might have been what we did in the past was just to release you and then expect you to return, because mm-hmm. you had no opportunities. You didn't have the resources that you had.
Hasan, it sounds like because Paul left Virginia and went to Alabama, if he were here, would he have had a different experience, do you think?
In Virginia, he would have had a different experience. But I also want to add this in. It is each person's responsibility. They are responsible for their future. It's not just the Department of Corrections. Mm-hmm. When you look at Malcolm X and you look at other great leaders in the days that they were incarcerated and they didn't have all of the programs that you have today, they still came out to be great leaders. You're responsible. When I went into incarceration, I was 16 years. I was incarcerated at 20 years of age, had a 6th grade education. I came out today. This is my portfolio.
Wow. He's got a book that is about 2 inches thick.
This intimidates folks when they see it. But The key is you have to take advantage of everything that you can take advantage of while you're incarcerated. We had a gentleman to come to Goodwill whom we placed on a job after he had been incarcerated 38 years. His name was Leroy Mason. This individual got 2 bachelor's degrees and a master's degree while he was incarcerated. Now, you have to take advantage of the programs, whether, and if it's not programs in a prison, if it's corresponding courses, you have to take advantage. You're the one that have to make sure that the education is going to be there for you. Because what I found out is this, is that if you just sit back and you wait for the system to give it to you, Virginia is in a good place. You're right. Virginia is in a good place. We're in a better place with this governor's administration, the Department of Corrections in this state, than all over the country, I would say, as far as helping folks to get where they need to be. And then organizations on the outside, such as Goodwill and what have you. However, whether these organizations are in place or not, you have to do all you can while you're incarcerated. So much time is being wasted while men and women are incarcerated. And they are looking for individuals when they come out of prison to just hand them jobs, housing, things on a blue plate. When I came out of prison, I had been incarcerated 17 years. Yes, I did have a place to go home to live with my father. However, I began to disturb his way of living because he was used to a normal way of life. So as a result of that, to salvage and keep a good relationship going with my father, I moved out and found my own place. You may find that just because you have a place to stay, that may not be all of it. You may have to do some other things. So I found a place to stay, another place to stay, and build.
And I want to ask you, you were in prison for 17 years.
17 years.
When you came out, you were used to, basically, I assume there was a routine that you had for those 17 years and so forth. Can you talk about what it was like those first few days of freedom and how your adjustment went?
Sure. I was scared to death. However, I knew that I had to get busy getting to work, getting a job, getting my driver's license. There was no time to play catch up, such as trying to find out how many beers I could drink or how many women I could go sleep with. I had to get busy going to work. Then I had some rules. The rules were no drugs, no alcohol, get you a job, get you some money in your pocket, get stable before you decide to start a relationship and things of that nature. A lot of individuals come out of prison and they want to play catch up and they want to go back to old friends. Well, I went back to old neighborhoods, yes, but I did not socialize with the old folks in the neighborhood. I spoke, waved my hand, but kept on with my mission of building and trying to find a job and doing that which is right, not hanging out late at night. And then I began to build relationship with church groups, organizational groups, and then I said, listen, I'm going to have to give back to my community. So I became a volunteer in a prison, went back into prison after being incarcerated 17 years and became a volunteer. Today I've been a volunteer in prison for more than 20 years, going back, giving back, because people came in and gave to me.
440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240 are the numbers to call to join our conversation. If you are an ex-offender and you want some help, give us a call. If you are curious about, how society can help these people to reassimilate and to be able to become productive citizens again, we'd love to hear from you. 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. Paul, let me ask you, did you take advantage of any of the reentry programs in Alabama?
I took they got reentry programs down here, but it's for people who did over 6-7 years, and it's not really a reentry program. It's really you've been gone so long from society, so we're going to show you how to fill out an application. We're going to show you how to, and that's it. I don't know what's going on in Virginia or Louisiana, but I know in Alabama how the prison system is set up. It's designed for black poor men to fail, and I stand on that because that's what I see.
Okay, knowing that, what are your plans in terms of making changes?
Okay, well, my plans are to get out of this state. but this state is disaster. I'm in the process of trying to move with some more family and trying to get myself back stable. I was going to South University before I got incarcerated in January of 2012. I was working on my BA with my business administration, my associate degree. I was like 2 semesters away before I got caught up in a car with some wrong people that I ain't supposed to be with. And I got out this time after so much stuff been happening with me. I'm just really getting back sane. I accumulated a lot of stuff and I lost a lot. And this time my grandma ain't here, and it's just a big experience. I'm living with a lady, and it's just a big experience, and I'm going through a lot mentally. So I'm trying to really just get myself back together. But,
James, let me ask you, James, what words of encouragement then would you give to Paul so that he can make some changes?
Boy, there's so much to talk about. One, Paul, you have to have a plan. That's the first step. The plan that you currently have, even though it is a noble one in the sense of leaving the state you're in, the issues that you have will follow you regardless of where you go. So a plan that is defined step by step. This is one of the things that we always tell the guys and women that we deal with while they're incarcerated. If you don't have a plan, if your plan is I'm just going to get out and get a job, that's really not a plan. Your plan should be what type of job you're going to pursue, what plan B or C you're going to need in case you're going to face some obstacles, and at the same time, what are the resources necessary to acquire that? That is the reason why coalitions like the one that we have here in Baton Rouge are so important, because they become the first step for that individual when they're released. Now, fortunately for us, I don't know about any other programs across the country, but one of the things that we do is provide a mentoring program that individuals like yourself, Paul, we partner with, and we work with that individual while they're still incarcerated, so that when they walk out the gate, they are walking hand in hand, so to speak, with a mentor that has already provided a plan of action for that individual and connected the resources necessary to make sure that individual is successful. Now, is it easy? Absolutely not. One of the other things I wanted to talk about is tying with what Brother Hasan was saying. My great aunt reared me when I was a kid, and of course, back in the day, she always said this to me, and I got tired of hearing it as a kid, but I really appreciate it now. She said, if you know the man don't like you, why you give him a shotgun and the shells? And when you drop out of school, when you do things that are not necessarily conducive to getting you where you need to be as far as your life is concerned, then you're actually giving the man the shotgun and the shells. And we shouldn't be offended when he pulls the trigger and blows us away. We got to be proactive, as my man was saying, take advantage of every opportunity. And thirdly, we have so many barriers, so many obstacles that our guys and women are facing. But we've got to realize this: you have a brain, you have talent that was given to you before you came into this world, and for us not to take advantage of every opportunity to excel. It's really amazing. I'm sure all of us know this. The things that we didn't do when we were kids, when we were in school, oftentimes we look back and say, man, if I'd have just applied myself more, if I'd have just did more, I would be further along than I am now. Well, the same thing applies to all of the guys and women who are incarcerated. If they will just do what the thing they didn't do at 16 and 18, they will have the type of life they need to have. Yes, it's going to be harder, but boy, there's no reason to give up now just because you had a little hiccup in the road.
If you're just joining us, we're talking about the reentry of ex-offenders into society with Hasan Zarif, a reentry specialist with Goodwill Industries in Richmond, Robert Williams, an employment specialist with Second Chances, James Windom, executive director of the Capital Area Reentry Coalition in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and Paul Joyner, an ex-offender who lives in Alabama. Let me ask you, Hasan, what other words of advice would you give to Paul?
One of the big mistakes that individuals make when they come to the Goodwills or the workforce, the first thing that they do is say, I need a job. They get that job, or they get a direction of where the job is, and they disappear. It may be a job paying $8 an hour at McDonald's. Not to say that McDonald's is a bad place to work, because you can go to McDonald's and learn all about McDonald's and possibly get you a franchise for McDonald's. But what we say to individuals, you need to be connected with training. You need to get a work specialist at Goodwill or other workforces. You need to allow individuals to help you to put together a plan. And Goodwill in Virginia, across the state of Virginia and throughout the United States, is one of the best places to start. I now have 5 certifications that I would not have if it had not been for Goodwill. If I had just been at Goodwill and just said, okay, I'm going to work. But one of the things that I find that if you go to the workforces and the Goodwills and listen to what the people say and follow their directions, you can better yourself. If you go to the Goodwills, like I did, and allow them to put together a plan for you, help you to get clothing, point you in the direction of training, show you how you can get free money to go to school through, let's say, workforce investment. One of the biggest mistakes individuals make is going out and getting loans, big college loans. We teach you how to go and find grant money or other ways to get training so that you don't add on to another burden. The key is that you have to rebuild and then change the label. If you look at me today, I used to be on 13 different types of drugs. I have not had any drugs in my system, illegal drugs in my system, in over 35 years. No alcohol, no drugs. You have to allow yourself to change your past, and you can't blame it on other people. One of the biggest things that I hear from individuals, they say, I was with the bad people. You can't say that you were with the bad people. You have to accept the responsibility for the mistakes that you've made, and you have to come up with a plan to change your future by connecting with churches, organizations, and have people and services to give you the wraparound services to help you to get where you need to be.
We've got the phone lines lit up. Let's talk to Chris in Norfolk. Hi, Chris. You're on the air.
Hi, how are you?
Okay.
Well, I'm an ex-convict. I did 5 years in a prison up in New England and 2 years of parole to follow, where as soon as I got out, I actually got a job in a little pizza place. Of course, there wasn't enough money to live on. And that's the major problem is there's nothing in the jails. You know, I've been listening to the conversation in the prison systems that actually get people to a point where they can get out and have what I consider a living wage, something where you can pay a rent, feed your children. You end up having to take these menial jobs, and it puts you in a position where you're almost forced to do something illegal just as a matter of survival.
Okay, we've got an employment specialist here. Let's get a response. Thanks, Chris, for the phone call. We appreciate it.
Well,
Robert.
Chris, one of the things we're working on is having a sustainable wage or a living wage, as you put it. And some of the things you want to consider are definitely going to be training. You may have to, I guess we say you have to crawl before you walk, and we understand that. But, they have apprenticeship programs out. They have all different types of training that's available right now, and that's what I would pursue along those lines. Now, I work at the Second Chances program, and one of the things that we do, we embrace our participants once they come out, and they have to go through a life skills program. Notice I didn't say job skills, because a lot of people come out and they think that they can, I need a job. But what some things we teach in the life skill programs are your tangible and intangible things, your soft skills, goal setting, time management. Those are the type of things that I think you go through a program that's geared towards helping you all around in a more holistic approach. Now, in order to address your question even further, like I said, I would. A lot of times people come out and they take temporary jobs or even work with staffing agencies. But if you get that job, you work at it and you grow, and don't grow impatient, don't go out and do nothing that will get yourself back in a predicament. But it's not going to be easy, but it's doable.
We also have someone, James joins us from Norfolk, and he may also have a solution to that. Hi, James. How are you?
I'm good, Barbara. How you doing?
I'm doing great. You going to talk to us about the job fair that's coming up?
Yeah, I'd be happy.
James Bailey.
Uh-huh.
I'm the Hampton Roads chapter president for the Virginia Cure organization. And when I joined, one of the things I found out is in the real world, there's some 65 million folks that no matter how qualified they are, they can't get a job because as soon as they check the box that says they have a criminal record, they're not even looked at. Mm-hmm. So I decided I was going to try and help bridge that gap by doing this thing called Ban the Box. And in the Ban the Box movement is where I go around from city to city asking cities to remove the box from the job applications that ask questions about criminal background. And
right, yeah, we were talking about that, but you also have a job fair that's coming up with Cure, right?
That's right. That's what I was getting to, Barbara.
Okay.
As a result of getting employees to ban the box, I feel comfortable now actually doing what I titled an ex-felon job fair. I'm doing next Thursday, November 7th from 9 to 2.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so, and where is it? Give us the details.
Well, the details is it's going to be at 900 Portsmouth Boulevard. That's right across the street from Mount Sinai Church.
Okay. And from what time to what time?
9 to 2.
Okay, that's Thursday, November the 7th from 9 to 2, and it is called the Ex-Felon Job Fair. So those who have been incarcerated, who are now out and looking for employment, that's who you're looking for. Is that right?
Exactly. I've asked employers to come who are aware of the fact that the participants do, in fact, have criminal history backgrounds.
Okay.
So there's no confusion.
Okay. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, James. We really appreciate it. And thanks for listening. Go ahead, Hasan.
Banning the box is good. Mm-hmm. Banning the box is good. And having employers there who are willing to hire offenders, but still former offenders must do a makeover. If you look at me today, 17 years of incarceration, 12 years on parole. When I came out of prison, I had to take some of those bad jobs, some of those minimum wage jobs. But while I had those jobs, I was willing to go and get training, keep that little job, that job that's paying $8, go to school at night, burn the midnight oil. If you don't do that, then you're not going to get where you need to be. One of the things that we do at Goodwill, for example, if a person is working on the dock, we say to that individual, go to the foreman who drives the forklift or the dock supervisor and ask him to teach you how to use the forklift. So in addition to just being a dock worker, you will also know how to use a forklift. That can increase your pay, whether you stay at Goodwill or go somewhere else. Mm-hmm. The key is that you're going to have to grapple with. You're looking at, I hear the individuals on the line, 5 years, 2 years, 3 years of incarceration. But I'm talking about 17 years. And I just mentioned another man who was incarcerated 38 years. Mm-hmm. How did this man get a job? While you're incarcerated, you have to connect up with organizations. You have to use books. You have to go to church groups. You have to be involved in anything that they bring into the prison that gives you direction that's going to help your fatherhood programs, worship services, life skills, soft skills, anybody who come into the prison. Now, I'm going to tell you something that I know of in Virginia. They give out manuals. I have them in my office. Right now, I have 9 of them in my office. And a lot of individuals draw on those manuals. They don't read them, but I read them. That's why you can see I have a great big portfolio here, have education. It says that my profile is in the top 10 of 200 million on LinkedIn.
You've been able to basically take the information and work it in the way that it is supposed to be done. But Hasan, let me throw this out to you, because there's a lot of talk about the war on drugs and how there are more young men who have been incarcerated for small uses of drugs and so forth. They get caught up in the system, and they, for whatever reason, have not been able to work the system the way that you did, Robert.
Brother Hasan, I want to address that because, I mean, while you're talking personal responsibility, and that's, I understand that, and that's a vital part, but we try at Second Chances, we look at it from a more, well, I guess for a compassionate viewpoint, because there are people that don't have the skills, and we talked about the scarlet letter where, I think they have a scarlet or whatever color F, on their forehead, and it's that stigma. It's that stigma, and it affects their self-esteem. So sometimes we just have to grab them and embrace them and say, well, come on, in a proactive way. And what I do on a day-to-day basis, I'm an advocate. So I'm an advocate. So I go to different businesses and I talk to businesses and I say, well, I'm with Second Chances. And we need, would you be willing to, hire people with some background issues? And a lot of times we have a whole...
And what do the employers tell you?
Well, it varies. It varies. I have gotten some doors shut in my face. But, more often than not, when I explain to them that if you give someone, and I not only that, I tell them the benefits of what we do. We do substance abuse urinalysis screenings. We have federal bonding that we provide. We go send them through a life skills. We do follow up. There's a lot of things that we do with. If you get a Second Chances, one of our participants, then you're getting somebody who we've been with them. We follow them. And so if you give somebody a second chance, you'll have one of the most loyal, dedicated employees that you could possibly find. Mm-hmm. So we like to just reach out and, like I said, sometimes it's good to have that personal responsibility and take personal responsibility. I think it's vital, but, sometimes we have to go that extra mile.
Let me throw this out at you. I used to be a case manager at RCAP Virginia Cares. One of my responsibilities was to go out and talk to 30 employers every month. Mm-hmm. And so when individuals came in, we had jobs right there. We had thick notebooks, 5-10 notebooks. However, if you don't help the individuals who come to you and give them the soft skills and help those individuals with other things, what happens is today, if you try to find a list of employees, not a notebook now, a list of employees who hire offenders, they will say, take my name off the list.
Because they're worried about their business?
Because they're worried about their business. The other thing is that you've had some very serious offenses. I don't want to call the places, but you've had some very serious offenses that have happened at various employers' places of business.
Because they've given someone a chance.
Because they've given individuals a chance whom organizations have said, well, just give them a job. Again, without
that's why you're talking about the holistic
approach. You got to work with the individuals on the holistic approach. Mm-hmm. Because if you're not working with them on a holistic approach, they're going to get the job. But what's going to happen is when that $8 doesn't work for them, then at 11 o'clock at night, they're going to have Joe to meet them at night to rob the manager. You see? So you have to get that person in a place to where you work with them on holistic. Now, this is what the governor has done. The governor of Virginia has said re-entry inside of the prison, where it used to be re-entry started 90 days before your release. We have been, Goodwill has allowed me to go into the prisons and be on various committees saying, hey, you got to catch them when they first come in.
So you start the process from the time they enter in, as opposed to waiting until they're about to leave. See, that's where the problem has been. The process has been wait 90 days until the person's getting ready to get out. We say the process has to start when they first go in, start getting them on the right track. Even if they fall away, during that process of incarceration, you can get them back on the track and they'll know what you're talking about. But how can you take a person who has been, have had years of just bad incarceration, and then 90 days before they get out, then say, hey, you want to learn how to write a check? You want to learn how to get a job? What you have to do, if you look at what you see sitting in front of you, this is an example of me allowing those organizations to wrap themselves around me while I was incarcerated, taking advantage.
and not just complaining.
So, James, as you all have in Baton Rouge, then it takes the entire community to come together.
Absolutely.
Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Yes, right.
In fact, what Hasan is saying is exactly what we've been doing for a number of years, and that is meet that individual as soon as they are incarcerated and provide an assessment of that individual, determining what that person's needs are, and begin to meet those needs while they're incarcerated. In fact, one of the things that is required is soon as I think it's within 2 years of their release, they're having to take 100 hours of pre-release classes, which include anger management, because you get a guy a job and he still has anger issues.
Yes.
Then if the guy looks at him wrong or says something wrong, then he's out the door. We need to be able to identify those things and work on those while they're still incarcerated. So that's one of the things that we're doing right now. And I want to say something else by what Hasan is saying. I think it was Robert, though. He said something about embracing that individual. Relationships are the reason that we are either in jail or doing well, and because of the type of relationships we've had. And one of the things we've really, really emphasized here in our community is the importance of having that mentoring relationship with someone that's going to hold that individual accountable to a plan of action that he or she must meet as they walk out the gate. And one last thing I want to say, too, is this idea of restoration. It's amazing how we preach restoration and restoring on Sunday, but as a community as a whole, we don't practice restoration on Mondays through Friday. We need to change that, and that means that we need to look at the individual not as a ex-felon or returning citizen per se, but just as a person who's always wanted to live the life that God intended. Maybe they just had a few hiccups. And so we need to look at that as a whole, and I love what Hasan is saying, it's a holistic approach. Basically, he's a person.
The other thing that I want to add, too, is that if the local church is giving you some food, go back to the church and see what you can do to help the church.
That church ought to make you accountable for that.
Right. If a organization is helping you with a job, now this happens at Goodwill, and we are saying to individuals, you need to be accountable. They will come and get the job, and we may say, look, you need to let us know where the job is, so that we can put that information in our file to help others to get jobs. So we are saying that individuals must buy into the programs while incarcerated, and they also must be accountable to the churches, accountable to the workforces, accountable to the Goodwills, not just come and say, give me what you can give me, and then let me get out of here.
And I know,
Barbara,
yes, go ahead.
You said something earlier, and you asked my man Paul about how his parents or his household received him when he got home. That's one of the issues that we do have within our community, particularly the black community. We're almost celebrating when a person goes to jail, and we're celebrating them when they return. We're not necessarily making them accountable for the deeds that they've done.
So the accountability is very, very important.
Absolutely.
In part of their healing.
We as a community have to change our game.
We've only got about 2 minutes left, and I want to ask each of you a quick question, about 30 seconds to answer, okay? Sure. And Paul, I want to start with you. What would you say to someone to encourage them to stay out of the situation that you found yourself in?
Patience. That's the key word. Patience is the key word because, patience is a virtue, and I believe in it now. I'm not so quick to pick up a sack now. I'm not so quick. I'm just going by the flow, day by day. It's a day-by-day process. There's advice I have for anybody re-entry to society and trying to get themselves together.
Just be patient. That's Paul Joyner. He is an ex-offender who lives in Alabama. Thank you so much for joining us, Paul. We really, really appreciated it. James, what would you say to someone who is trying to make it and become a productive citizen again?
No one can make it as a Lone Ranger. Find someone in the community, either an organization or a church who's prolific at being involved in the community, and find someone to connect with. Because, once you connect with someone that has a vested interest in your well-being, then the likelihood is you're going to be able to, as Paul was saying, be more patient. Why?
Okay.
Because you have someone fighting for you.
All right.
I love what my man Robert was saying. He's an advocate.
Yes, when we got to run, James, because we're almost out of time. That's James Windom, the Executive Director of the Capital Area Reentry Coalition in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Thanks so much for joining us. Robert, you got about 15 seconds. I'm sorry.
Well, if I would say seek and ye shall find. If you seek out these programs, the programs are available. Just go and be diligent in your search to find some help.
Okay, Robert Williams, an employment specialist with Second Chances. Thank you so much. And Hasan, you got the last 30 seconds, literally.
I would say to the individual to Google me. I've been there, done that. I've been in the sewer.
Okay.
I'm out of the sewer.
Okay.
My number is 804-477-4359 or 804-662-0270.
And we are out of time. Thank you so much. That is Reverend Hasan Zarif with Goodwill Industries. And we will be right back.
Hi, I'm Claude McKnight of Group Take 6, and you're listening to Another View, Fridays at noon at WHRV 89.5 FM.
And what beautiful, beautiful music. I love that. In 4 days, PBS will show part 3 of a 6-part series looking at the journey blacks have taken from slavery to the White House when they continue the African Americans' many rivers to cross. Part of this incredible story took place right here in Hampton Roads at Old Point Comfort. As our Lisa Godley explains, many historians believe that both the beginning and the end of slavery transpired in Hampton, Virginia at Fort Monroe.
The first Africans arrived in America in late August 1619. The 60 men and women had been captured in South Central Africa and were on a Portuguese ship bound for Mexico when it was attacked by 2 pirate ships, the White Lion, whose home port was England, and the Treasurer, whose home port was Jamestown.
They were out there in the Gulf Coast and the West Indies attacking Portuguese and Spanish ships of their gold and silver. So they were a pirate ship who, on this occasion, accidentally attacked a ship carrying Africans.
Not wanting to leave empty-handed, they took the Africans. Some went on the Treasurer, some on the White Lion. But a violent storm caused the 2 ships to separate. Not knowing the waters, the White Lion set sail for Jamestown, but ended up dropping anchor at Old Point Comfort. The Africans were traded in exchange for food. It's uncertain whether they were traded as slaves or as indentured servants. The majority were dispersed among the colonies. The founder of Project 1619, Calvin Pearson, knows the story well.
2 of them stayed at Point Comfort and became servants in the home of Captain William Tucker. Captain William Tucker was the commander at Point Comfort at that time, and that was Antonio and Isabella. And Antonio and Isabella is the couple that gave birth to the first African child born in America who became William Tucker.
Brenda Tucker Doswell is a descendant of William Tucker. She often shares her family's story in words and song.
We don't know if Anthony and Isabella knew each other, but they were married, and apparently after they arrived, and the child was baptized. Little William was baptized.
But even Christian slaves who were baptized could not escape the laws that were being formulated to hold them in a state of servitude forever. More than 240 years later, the same site where those Africans first stepped on American soil, another historic event would transpire. The Story of the Contraband. It was May of 1861. The Civil War was just over a month old, and three brave men, Frank Baker, Shepard Mallory, and James Townsend, enslaved field hands assigned to work on the Confederate fortification at Sewell's Point, decided the time had come to seek their freedom. Michael Cobb is curator at the Hampton History Museum.
These three men made the decision to commandeer a boat and go across Hampton Roads Harbor at night, very dangerous crossing, and make to Fort Monroe. When they got to this fort, 63 acres in area, this huge monolithic stone fort, they had the courage to go up to the sentry and ask to see the commandant, General Benjamin F. Butler.
General Butler, who'd only been in charge of Fort Monroe a day, determined that sending the men back to their owner would only aid in the Confederate Army's quest to defeat the Union, so he declared them contraband of war. His actions would move America toward the Emancipation Proclamation. The men were put to work at the fort, but it wasn't long before the word spread that Fort Monroe was a place fugitive slaves could find refuge. Within a year's time, more than 7,000 men, women, and children were making their way to the place they called Freedom's Fort. 16 months after Baker, Mallory, and Townsend made their way to Fort Monroe, President Abraham Lincoln issued a preliminary Emancipation Proclamation, which required Southern states to cease their rebellion by January 1st of 1863, or all persons held as slaves in those rebel states would be forever free. When the Confederate Army refused, a second emancipation was issued, abolishing slavery and paving the way for blacks to serve in the Union Army and Navy. For Another View, I'm Lisa Godley.
And next Tuesday's program will focus on the end of slavery and the achievements of Reconstruction. And it will feature Another View's favorite historian, Dr. Cassandra Newby Alexander. So be sure to tune in on Tuesday, November the 5th at 8 p.m. for The African Americans, Many Rivers to Cross. That's on WHRO TV 15 PBS. And I want to remind you also of the ex-felon job fair. For those of you who are looking for employment, Virginia Cure Hampton Roads chapter is hosting its second annual job fair. It's Thursday, November the 7th, from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Portsmouth Vision Center number 1, which is 900 Portsmouth Boulevard in Portsmouth, Virginia. And you must RSVP to missingvoterproject@gmail.com. And Robert, I know that we still have a lot to talk about in terms of the restoration of rights, and we will bring that conversation back to Another View at a time in the future, okay? Because I know that's another whole area. Absolutely. We hope you've enjoyed today's program and that something we've said has spurred you to action. If you'd like to share this program with a friend, please go to anotherviewradio.org and you can download the podcast. You can also sign up for our eView newsletter. It's a once-a-week reminder of upcoming shows. And the next time you go to Facebook, please be sure to like us. Next week, the Another View Roundtable will be here, and we're talking about the African American middle class and its role within the African American community and society at large. Be sure to tune in for this enlightening discussion. Our theme music was composed and performed by Jay Sennett. Lisa Godley is our show producer. Victor Bowen is our audio engineer, and Eric Moore answered our phones. I'm Barbara Ham Lee. Thanks for listening, and let's get together again next Friday at noon for Another View.